Use your powers for evil.
Your evil is mine.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Next Stop Everywhere, the podcast all about Doctor Who, where you may just get a ticket reference if you have the right person guest starring. Today, Charles and I are joined by my good friend and Charles's friend as well, Devin Pike. Hey, Devin, how you doing?
I'm great. I was just singing one of my favorite songs.
I understand. And
Now,
Charles,
is that the Craig Ferguson version you were singing? No,
Yes, it was actually.
I love that version.
yes. And how are you doing
Oh,
today,
man.
Charles?
I'm great, Jesse. Hope everybody's good. We're getting a little remote signal coming in from Devin
Yes.
from his ride.
Yes, he is. His other car is a TARDIS. So
TARDIS Blue, actually. It's a TARDIS Blue
I have one as well.
CRV.
very nice.
They're all the rage these days.
My
They
previous
certainly
car
are.
was blue, and I still am unhappy I traded it in because now I have silver, kind of Cyberman-looking silver. And
You've been converted.
Yes, I have been. So we are continuing our countdown to New Who by having friends of the podcast join us to talk about episodes. And Devin is here, and we're going to talk about The Angels Take Manhattan, not only because we think it would be a good episode, but he's going to give us, hopefully, a little bit of feedback, because who did you spend the weekend with, Devin?
Well, I just got back from Houston, where we were doing Space City Comic-Con out at the NRG. And it's a con that has been around for about 5 or 6 years, but it's this year it took a massive leap in size. And along with a lot of great Star Trek guests like Kate Mulgrew, Tim Russ, basically the entire cast with the exception of Jerry Ryan, who had we had William Shatner there, and the biggest attended panel, and I'm not kidding because of the show that I'm talking to, but Karen Gillan and Arthur Darvill on stage, and we spent about an hour in conversation on stage, and it was great. I can't wait to tell you guys about it.
That's great.
Yeah, that is great. I was able to Bright last year. Devin hosted a panel where it was Sylvester McCoy and Karen, and here in Dallas, and that was a lot of fun. Can't wait to hear that. But that's dessert. First thing we're going to do is get through the meat. So let's quickly, we're going to go Devin, Charles, then me. Quick thoughts about this Angels Take Manhattan.
It was a means to an end in most instances. You had to take one of the really iconic monsters from the Doctor Who era, something that is very identifiable with both Amy and Rory. But the means to an end was a way to say goodbye to Karen Gillan and Arthur Darvill as companions on Doctor Who. There's a lot of plot holes. There's one massive thing that we'll talk about later with it. It's some of the best pieces of River Song through the entire show. I think that Moffat was able to reach in and pull something forward with the way that he wrote the interplay between River Song and the Doctor. And it didn't, in my mind, didn't give as much thought to Amy and Rory's relationship until the very, very final 2 scenes. So he did save the best for last with him.
Okay, very nice. Charles?
Yeah, I would agree with that. This is, I guess I did a little research on this, and apparently Moffat went through a bunch of rewrites on this episode. He wasn't happy with some of the scenes. He was very nervous. He wanted to give Karen and Arthur a better exit. So he kept rewriting things. One draft, I guess, had the Daleks instead of the Weeping Angels. But then ultimately the Weeping Angels went in because, as you said, it was more of a modern era Doctor Who monster to give them their send-off. But yeah, like Devin said, this story does have some serious plot holes, which we will discuss. I have to think we're going to discuss. And but overall, it's a decent send-off. It's not quite the send-off I would have liked, especially in Rory's case, because I think Rory was a little neglected as far as getting a decent send-off. His is very anticlimactic in that regard. So I'm curious to hear both of your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I agree. I do think in a lot of ways this is a River Song-centric episode, more than, even though it's Amy and Rory's final episode. And that's okay with me because I love me some River Song, and so I'm okay with that. But I do agree with both of you that in a lot of ways, the ending is kind of shoehorned. There is, I think it's a cool, image to see the Statue of Liberty as a weeping angel, but that makes no sense whatsoever. No sense whatsoever.
Especially if you've seen Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah. So, yeah, it just is
that's
anything.
much better. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So overall, I certainly good. And so, I kind of give us some talking points and then we can kind of go from there. But they really make a big deal about this reading in a book, and now you can't go away from it. And so my question to you, Devin and Charles, is do we need to hand wave that, or is this consistent? And for those of you who don't remember, Devin was with us before, and he is a classic Whovian fan, similar to Charles. So he is not like me, and Johnny come lately. So I'm curious y'all's thoughts on this. Seems to be kind of made up, very convenient. Devin?
Earth to Devin.
It's definitely the whole fixed point in time can't be moved. Yeah, do you have me? Please tell me you got me.
Yeah,
Come on. I can hear you guys fine.
We thought we just lost you there for a second.
Okay, got it. No. I apologize for that. And I apologize. Listen, they've caught me in transit, and I'm having to bounce this off of a supernova, so I don't know how my it's going to get. The whole fixed point in time concept had been kind of sparingly, but you'd seen it used a few times. We saw it first in I can't remember when we heard it first. It sticks out in the Fires of Pompeii.
Mm-hmm.
When David Tennant's doctor is using to help even one family escape the devastation of Pompeii, and of course, then he winds up saving Peter Capaldi. We're all great, but I think it's a crutch when you can't fix something in a writer's room, and you can't fix something in a thing. So it's an incontrovertible thing, and fixed point in time has almost become a joke to a lot of the Whovians who really want more from a script.
Yeah, go ahead, Charles, and then I'll ask.
I was just going to say, from a writer's standpoint, it frustrates me because it does, like Devin said, it does seem like a cop-out a lot of times. It's just like we have to slam the brakes on the story and give the doctor an obstacle he has to overcome, but at the same token, it's used just so conveniently here and there. There's no real consistency, no real logic to it, especially when the doctor starts breaking that. Those little fixed points and tweaking things, and you have time being rewritten. In this story, you had Amy questioning that time being rewritten, why can't the doctor just rewrite time and to save Rory? But so it just seems like that it's a plot device that doesn't always do what it. I think it goes in with to give those obstacles that the story needs to create a little conflict, but it does just seem like a really convenient fallback position sometimes.
Yeah. I think the idea of River having to break her own wrist,
right,
and her little story about, and it's one of my favorite things, one of my quotes, when one's in love with an ageless god who insists on the face of a 12-year-old, one does one's best to hide the damage. And we get a great line on it, but it just doesn't seem... So what if they had broken the paint?
Right.
I mean, are you telling me the world ends? It explodes? I don't get that. And it just... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it seems frustrating when only the doctor just conveniently says, okay, we can't do that for X reason.
Yeah.
And there should be, it just seems like there's no thought put into the script about what that reason is.
And I just watched Vincent and the Doctor recently. And, see, that, there was a good payoff, right? I mean, time found a way to fix itself so that the result of Vincent van Gogh.
Yeah,
I thought it was Vincent van Gogh for the longest time. Like, what the hell?
We all did.
He ends up killing himself despite what's going on. So, time reworked it. So it would have been, I think, an easier and a better story is if he had tried not to get her out without breaking the wrist, and it ended up getting broken a different way or something like that. So,
right.
Well, the bigger problem with Fixed Point in Time is the actual departure of Amy and Rory. And of course, you can't say, well, Amy and Rory have to be trapped in 1940, whatever, because if they're not, then we can still bring them back in the show. It's okay, so fine, yeah, time bubble, Fixed Point in Time, blah, blah, blah. 2 years is not that long. In fact, we've had the Doctor thinking he was going to be back in 5 minutes, and it took, 18, 19 years to get back to Amy's present. So moving along on that same person's timeline is not that hard. Just because he read a page in a book, that's why time travel paradox exists. The whole Back to the Future series doesn't happen if you don't have a time paradox. So you're going to tell me that Robert Gale can't do the same thing that Stephen Moffat does. It makes me insane.
Yeah, I wonder, instead of just waiting, even the idea that the Doctor, all Amy and Rory have to do is just wait a couple years and be picked up by the Doctor. They could just go ahead and drive to New Jersey, or go and picked up. Hey, I'll just meet you in New Jersey.
The traffic was horrible. They couldn't leave.
Exactly.
Horrible.
Yeah. Or Pennsylvania. Something. It's just like.
Well, who the hell wants to go there?
Well, yeah, that's true.
I might for a
especially
Springsteen concert.
Fans, but
yes.
This was before the Steelers, so it was okay.
So, but the whole point of, I guess it's the same thing with the Brigadier, right? He poured a shot of whiskey every night, and the Doctor never came to see him, and now then he never will because he never did. Seems circular logic.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know that,
especially when the Doctor goes back and visits dead people all the time.
Exactly. And I was hoping you guys could try to explain to me how he can never go visit them again. But before we get to that, I had guessed this ending before the show came out, and it was this whole, Karen Gillan says, if I leave the show, I don't want to have to come back, and not have to. I don't want to come back. I want it, I want it gone, but I think a companion dying is just too sad. So I'm like, okay, well, if you put that as your parameters, the angel's the only thing that makes sense. And so can you guys explain to me why he can't go back in time and visit Amy and Rory?
Because Stephen Moffat loves to see us cry.
Okay, fair enough.
And
Stephen Moffat, Joss Whedon, and George R.R. Martin walk into a bar and everybody dies.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But there really isn't an explanation for it apart from that. It's just what Stephen Moffat wants.
Okay.
Like I said, the Doctor's gone back and visited dead people all the time. There was, the episode Father's Day. He takes Rose back twice to the exact same moment to see her dad because she chickened out the first time in seeing him.
Right.
And caused all kinds of problems, but he was still able to do it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this just when you started to say the thing about Father's Day. That's the first time we've seen actual tangible complication.
I think Devin is being turned into a cyber.
Doctor
Yes.
being somewhere. Oh God! Stupid internet broadcasting. In Father's Day, we see the first tangible consequences to creating paradox, which are the big flying lizard monster. Or
Yeah,
whatever, who's what's it's. They
the
look like
timey-wimey
they look like
kind of-
wasps. I hate them.
Yeah.
Right. So I wonder if by having to combat and fight them, the Doctor starts taking time travel paradox more seriously, and that's why we start seeing the whole Rose, this is a fixed moment in time. We start seeing that as an
Yeah.
example. My Eccleston sucks, but I'm working on it.
No, that's
so.
that's at least interesting, and that's
It's an interesting theory.
yeah, that's at
Yeah.
least something.
At least it's a sort of explanation for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
As opposed to just Moffat being Moffat.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna kind of. I've got a couple other questions, but in the meantime, so I'd like you both to kind of talk about. You guys have both implied that there's huge plot holes in here. What are the other plot holes besides the things we're talking about right now, where this whole fixed point of time and everything going just seems weird?
Charles, you want to go first because there's one doozy I want to throw at you.
Let's see.
While you're thinking,
Yeah, because we went on the big rant. I was really wanting to go on the big rant about the being able to go back and pick up Rory and Amy, but
yeah, the whole
okay. My one big plot hole again. It's the whole idea of the Statue of Liberty being a weeping angel.
yes,
As we've talked about, it's kind of right out of Ghostbusters 2.
yes.
And so I have a really
Sorry, Charles, are you going?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Statue of Liberty Weeping Angel.
Yeah.
I'm going into that more. The idea that the Statue of Liberty walking around town, going boom, 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 and obviously it's making noise because Amy actually references it as like, what is that noise in the episode? So none of that would get any attention from anyone. This big, huge, ginormous statue walking around New York. I mean, I know it's New York. I know they can be jaded sometimes, but are they really that jaded not to notice the Statue of Liberty walking around downtown?
Well, and that was going to be one of my nitpicks is when Blink by itself is just almost, it is, a Mary Poppins episode, practically perfect in every way.
Mm-hmm.
And they established the rules pretty clear. And then later, when we had them come back, the rules were a little different, right? All of a sudden.
Right.
And now then, there are times when I swear someone's looking at an angel and they move anyway. I guess maybe they kind of like, okay, so Rory is blocking Amy from seeing the angel. That's why the angel's ready to touch him, and then when she turns around, she blocks the Doctor, but couldn't River see him, the angel? It just seems, I understand it's very dramatic.
Unless River was watching Amy.
Okay, maybe. It just seems a little too convenient.
Mm-hmm. A common theme
entirely.
Theme in this episode.
Yeah. How about you, Devin? What are you thinking of? That's
the actual evolution of the Angels as a villain is what really pisses me off in it.
okay.
And the fact that you have this New York businessman who's collecting all these angels and trying to scar them and make them feel pain and make them scream. That, to me, it almost seems to diminish what Moffat did with his own creation of the Weeping Angel in making them into more of a, I have a plot, I have a motive thing. and it makes me absolutely crazy because Blink, I mean, exactly right with Mary Poppins. It is perfect in every way. It is the gateway who. When you have someone who is, this Doctor Who thing, I don't know if I like it or not. You put them in front of a TV for 42 minutes. If they like it, you know that they're hooked for 8 seasons plus.
Right.
If they don't, you can send them on the way and have them go watch Supernatural or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. It just seems like it cheapens the Angels into a second tier Doctor Who villain.
Yeah.
And we don't really get an explanation about why Grail, how he found out about the Weeping Angels, and how he knew all this. You know, he's not really fumbling in the dark. And
Because he got killed. Ha ha ha.
Exactly. Yeah. Good point. We're gathering up all these weeping cherubs.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever, right?
No. Unless the angels got busy down there in the basement.
Yowza.
Hey now. Okay. Yeah.
How does the species propagate if no one can see them?
Yes. Or when they look at each other.
Yeah.
I guess no.
That's why they do it. That's why they do it with the lights off.
That's right. And the method that allows you to make boys. There's another ticket reference for Devin. So we're gonna move on.
Yeah, right.
So I
want to know more about Weeping Angels having sex. This is an interesting topic.
There has to be some slash fiction of Weeping Angel sex out there, sir.
No,
Rule 34 exists for a reason.
Yes,
there is slash fiction on everything. There's slash fiction of Rory and the Weeping Angels, I'm sure. Rory and the Doctor in the Weeping Angels, the Weeping Angels, Amy River Song, you name it, it's there.
Yes. And I did not. I'm trying to get on track.
I know. I can feel it. I can hear the gear grinding.
I thought it was interesting that River mentions that she's been pardoned because the person she killed doesn't exist anymore. So this is kind of they're bringing up, how, at the end of the previous season, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone thinks he's dead and everything was set. So I feel like that is rewriting time. I mean, in the very same episode, they're talking about that, she's rewritten time, and because he's gotten rid of this databases everywhere. So, as we try to follow the rules of actually using the story to find a plot inconsistency, any thoughts?
Well, how about this?
Go.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just going to say that, in the Impossible Astronaut. Well, actually, no, I take that back. In the Wedding of River Song.
Yes.
River makes a point that the Doctor's death is a fixed point that needs to happen.
Yes.
So, if it's a fixed point and the Doctor just suddenly erases it, and River is pardoned because there's no murder.
Yeah, then he's changed.
What's up with that? I mean, just the logic. The writer in me my head explodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my God! And on top of that, you've got the whole thing where the Doctor and River meet in opposite ends of their
timeline.
Every time, yeah. And so you've got the trains of their own lives are moving in opposite direction. How would River tell them that she's been pardoned if it hasn't happened yet in her timeline?
Yeah.
Right.
No, a great point. And also, because she corrected him, right? She says, I'm Professor Song, not Dr. Song. So is that like early in her career? Does she not have her doctorate yet?
Well, that was farther along.
Yeah.
She's a professor now.
Okay. So, anyway. All right. So...
River's timeline is a mess anyway.
Yes, it is. God, but Alex Kingston just nailed it every time. She is just so...
Every time.
She is just, yes. Amy and Rory as companions. I just recently saw a question on Quora, the website where everyone posts questions and people answer. And I think this was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but someone said, is Amy Pond the greatest Doctor Who character ever? And people said no, they didn't. But how would you rank Amy and Rory as companions? Are they one of the best? Or do we overpraise them because of how likable the two actors are? Because it's a modern era? Other thoughts? And Devin, you can start us.
That's a tough. It's a tough one because being somebody who has a larger base to go from if you're only watching the rebooted era and you're missing out on Sarah Jane Smith, that's
Right.
companion 1A, 1B, and 1C. That's I mean, to me, she's the gold standard that all other companions should be judged by.
She's the
So-
definitive companion.
Absolutely.
Completely. She's not a shrinking violet. She is a woman of action. She tells the doctor when he needs to rein it back in. And that's where I think people who dismiss Clara as annoying or everything else miss the point, because the true reason the companion exists is not to shriek and run down corridors. It's to complement the doctor's personality and ability.
Yeah.
That to me is why companion exists. So if you judge Amy and Rory from that criteria, I think they rate rather high because, and I keep going back to the doctor's wife because, I mean, to me, that is a perfect Doctor Who episode.
Right.
I would hold that up to Blink as something I will always watch anytime I get the opportunity to. And when you have the one piece of conversation, remember what you did the last. I know what happened with the Time Lords, and I know what you did. That whole. I mean, I don't know if you have that conversation with a lot of the companions, but you have that with Amy and Rory, even if Rory doesn't know all the backstory because he wasn't always traveling with them. I think that's actually now that you ask the question, I think I would rate them rather high. I wouldn't put them at the top of the list, but I definitely include them in your top 5 conversation.
So, Charles?
Yeah. I think that Amy complements Matt Smith's Doctor perfectly. She was the one, as a companion, Amy is able to. She's not taking any of the Doctor's crap. She's able to speak her mind. She's able to assist him, but by that same token, she's not a little helpless wallflower either.
Right.
And it's almost their lives kind of complemented each other because with Amy meeting the Doctor first as a little girl, she's like essentially grown up with the Doctor, or at least thinking about the Doctor until the Doctor finally came back for her. But then when Rory was brought in, you kind of wondered, well, that's going to throw off the dynamic, but they actually became a family.
Yes, they did.
And, it was the Doctor, it's almost like the Doctor is the dad. He marries River Song, the mom, although she's technically the daughter of Amy. But they're like this time-traveling family now. So it's it's kind of like it's those two are Matt's definitive companions during the 11th Doctor era. I think more so than Clara. That's not to dismiss Clara, but I think they have much more weight for that era.
So I agree with you guys, and so this is kind of leads to our next question, kind of asked a different way. Should Matt Smith have only had Rory and Amy as his companions? And do you like the idea? Because I will tell you, I don't think of Clara as with Matt Smith immediately. I think of Amy and Rory, when I think of Matt Smith. David Tennant had multiple, companions. And so do you guys like the idea of having multiple companions with the Doctor? Or would you like one? And do you think it would have served better if this had been actually the regeneration of, like he would have not had a companion for a couple episodes and then, regenerated? And I'm kind of bumbling the question, but I think you guys understand what I'm asking.
Yeah. No, I get where you're going with it. It makes sense. I'm just trying to formulate an answer because that's not really something I've thought of. When I think of a Doctor, I think of I judge them based on their next companion. I don't judge them on the companion that they get. And Smith was interesting because in reboot era, obviously you had Rose coming on the first episode that we meet the Doctor. In Tenet, we start with Rose, then we get the amazing Freeman again with God.
Martha.
Why am I blanking on Martha Jones?
Catherine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
Yeah.
going down the road.
Yes, by the way, if you haven't seen Sense8, if you're a Martha fan, I recommend it strongly.
She's very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't she?
Yeah.
Just great in that role.
You're a Freeman fan.
Yeah, Martha is my favorite companion. And for
Yeah.
reasons, but I just love how for exactly the reason for Sarah Jane Smith, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of the
Yep.
reasons that people love Sarah Jane Smith, I loved Martha. But anyway, so yeah, Tenet got a lot of difference, but Matt almost totally was Amy.
Right, but
Yeah.
with some companions though, like with Sarah Jane Smith, she's great with the third Doctor, John Pertwee. You think that those two are going to be a great together, but then of course the unit gang and Pertwee leaves, and then Tom Baker's brought in, and it's a completely different dynamic with Tom Baker,
Mhm.
but those two are very good together as well. So it says a lot about Sarah Jane as a companion that she could be great for both two different types of Doctors, but it also shows that I don't think that a companion has to be Doctor specific.
Yeah. Do you think of Sarah Jane as mainly Tom Baker's companion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you? Okay.
Yeah.
For example, also you had Adric, Nyssa, and Tegan toward the end of the Fourth Doctor era, but I
Mhm.
primarily think of them as Fifth Doctor companions.
Right.
So, or Perry at the end of the Fifth Doctor era, but she's the definitive Sixth Doctor companion in my mind.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
So
And that's exactly what I would have said as well. Absolutely.
so you guys are good either way. In other words, you don't have a preference on
No.
I would be okay. In fact, I would be interested to see if Clara just we move on that
We're backing up now.
yes, Peter Capaldi having his
Back
doctor
show
have
up.
a different companion,
Yep.
Because I would like to see him interact with something.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it would make a great change. I think a lot of fans would like the change, but I think Clara's had a good run. So
Yeah.
so she leaves at the end of this season. I would totally understand.
Yeah.
But I think it would be great for Capaldi's Doctor just to see him with someone else, even if it's like, say, if they bring in Rigsy, who is going to be appearing in the season finale.
Yeah.
If they bring him as a regular companion,
Yes.
I think it would be interesting to see him around full time.
Okay.
And on top of that, I think it would be fan service if they did it, and I really hope they don't. But there's talk of bringing another Scott in to be a companion, to where they have that dueling Scottish brogue going back and forth. And I've had the chance to ask Karen Gillan, would you have appreciated the opportunity? And she says, "Oh my God, there would be a doctor who finally speaks proper English. Absolutely, I would jump at that chance." But I think that it would be better if it was someone who even less understands somebody from Scotland.
Yeah.
So I think Stephen Moffat's ultimate Doctor Who episode would be Peter Capaldi's the Doctor with Karen Gillan as Amy Pond, Fraser Hines coming back as Jamie McCrimmon,
Yeah.
with a guest appearance by Nev McIntosh
Yes.
as Madame Vastra.
He
would just, and it would be set in Loch Ness with the Zygons.
And the theme would be played on bagpipes.
Yes.
With
it would be interesting for the Doctor to go see Fraser Hind as an adult, as a grown-up Jamie, and take Jamie's son as a companion.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a Peter Panish.
Or grandson at this point.
Yeah, grandson, yeah. But because when Peter Pan comes and gets Wendy's daughter or granddaughter, at the end. So that would be interesting and kind of serve that. I don't think it would be fan service. I think it could be a second generation companion. Would there be some stories there? And I bet that has been on fan fiction.
Yeah, it's called Outlander.
Yes, absolutely. I would I'd have those two in the TARDIS. I'd be okay with that. Yeah. So we've kind of talked a little about this, but do you think did they do Amy and Rory justice as a goodbye story?
I think that they did as best they could with it.
Okay.
This was just a weird thing in general because having their departure so well telegraphed. You already know that it's going to rip your guts out when you watch it. And I really hated that. I hated the fact that they had to do it that way. The writer in me, and Charles, I'm sure you're in the same boat, is you have the most impact if at minute 45 you get the WTF moment where everyone is screaming and throwing things at their set and just absolutely cursing Stephen Moffat into the ground. Instead, you know that at some point, ooh, this could be it. Wait, no, they're still alive. Ooh, that could be it. Oh, they survived. Ooh, they jumped off the building. Oh, but they survived. It almost takes the punch out of it. And I still think that they managed to rip out our heart a little bit with the way that it happened.
Yes.
Where you think you're safe, and then Rory go bye-bye and Doctor turn away.
Yeah.
That whole bit. I think they did as best they could with it, but I still wish to everything that they would have managed to have kept that under their hat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm not going to be that grumpy old guy, the darn internet, those darn kids, but
get off my lawn.
Yeah, it is a tough time. And I've talked about this often, that I would have been horribly mad if the Paul McGann, appearance before the 50th anniversary, the little, the little kind of prequel, the little,
the Night of the Doctor.
Yeah, the Night of the Doctor. If I had been spoiled that he was going to appear.
Yeah.
And it is so hard to surprise people now. And it's funny to kind of talk, I have had people tell me that if they find out that the Game of Thrones creators have been lying about, Kit Harington coming back as Jon Snow because they've said he's dead, they're going to be mad. And I'm like, why? Why?
They're not paying attention to the books, for one thing.
Yeah, and also, don't you understand that if they're misleading you to try to tell a better story, that's fair. That's fair, right? You want a good story, So anyway,
some people just hate.
They
just want to know everything,
right?
Have it all mapped out for them.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious. What are these books things that you're speaking of? I'm a little concerned over them.
You download them off iBooks.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good.
All right. So we just last week, the wonderful podcast mom Karen joined us, and we did A Town Called Mercy because it was a special Farscape crossover weekend. But
hell yeah.
Amy started talking about you shouldn't travel alone. And then story is, where they're bringing it up again, just one or two stories later, right?
Two episodes later.
So I understand story-wise that you need the companion to, I just watched a first season episode of Arrow, and he didn't have anyone to talk to, so there was a lot more of the narrative, the kind of, and so, if nothing else, the Doctor needs a companion for story-wise,
right,
to talk and,
Well, somebody has to go like, Doctor, what's this? Or who's that? What's this do?
What's the point of me being clever if there's no one here for me to see it, right?
Right, exactly.
But forget that for a minute. From the actual mental health or for the character of the Doctor itself, is it good he travels with someone? What are y'all's thoughts?
I think, it's hard for me to replace the writer with the Watch
Yeah.
If I'm watching it, as long as the Doctor's doing something somewhere, then I think it's fine. And we've seen instances when David Tennant was wrapping up his run,
Yeah.
where he didn't have a companion, but he was still solving space mysteries because he's Inspector Spacetime.
Right.
What you wind up doing is you drop him into the middle of a situation where he doesn't have the safety net of a companion to reach out to the Straits and say, guess what? This guy isn't that insane. He actually knows what he's talking about. He has to prove it with his actions. So I think every now and then a reset like or midnight. I think that winds up working okay. I wouldn't want to watch a full season without him as a companion, but I think the occasional episode works.
Yeah, Charles?
Yeah, there's been, I mean, very rare, it happens very rarely when the Doctor's traveling by himself on the show, but sometimes it can be very interesting just to see him by himself. Like, there's a story called The Deadly Assassin during the Tom Baker era, where the Doctor is off by himself and he's got to face the Master. It's just, mano y mano, Time Lordo.
Yeah.
However you want to call it, but
worst Latin ever.
Exactly. Yeah. But essentially that he doesn't have that, he doesn't have someone like a Sarah Jane or a Leela or Romana there helping him.
Yeah.
So it kind of, he has to rely more on himself, and and sometimes gets himself into trouble as a result.
Yeah, but even with the Deadliest Assassin, in short order, he's able to make people understand one person at a time, whether it's the captain of a guard or the local medical officer. I can't remember what Gallifrey had with that, but it's one of those things where eventually you have to assert that the Doctor is, in fact, the smartest person in the room, even when he's surrounded by other Gallifreyans and Time Lords.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, he's the hero. He has to be. That's his role. That's his role.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm okay story wise, and I agree with you guys. He needs it, but I also think that the Doctor's character itself, and I'm just thinking of Waters of Mars. He needs that balance. He needs that human, or could be alien, which we can only hope sometime, a non-Time Lord companion to help him be his conscience.
Yeah.
So I'm glad about that. What did we not cover on the episode that you guys want to talk about? And then we'll go to favorite lines and a rating.
As long as I got to cover the whole two trains passing in the night, why the hell would Melody have known how she was pardoned? That whole bit.
Okay.
That was the main thing I wanted to cover.
Okay. Charles, anything?
I just want to give a quick mention that it was great to hear Sting's An Englishman in New York at the beginning. During the Central Park scene. I thought I complimented that perfectly. And,
absolutely.
It's such a great song. But and the location filming.
Yes.
Or the filming location that, set there actually in New York. This wasn't like the Daleks, in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
That horrible episode.
Yep.
We're actually in New York properly this time. I mean, we get the Brooklyn Bridge, we get the Central Park, the East River. It looks great, and the episode definitely benefits as a result.
Yeah.
Even when you've got, a good chunk of it in the hotel. Yeah. And or on that, that fake rooftop, but
yeah, and I agree with you. The scene at the park is absolutely beautiful. Yep. All right, so do you have a favorite line?
Yes? I just want to say I also love the little epilogue with the getting to see young Amelia Pond once again, where it kind of fills in the gap of Matt Smith's first episode, The 11th Hour, where there was a little scene where Amy's out there, or young Amy is out there, Amelia Pond, and she's waiting, and here's the TARDIS. And in the 11th Hour, we never kind of understood what was going on when Amelia hears the TARDIS and looks up. But now, here at the end, Moffat does bring that full circle.
Yeah.
And closes that loop.
Yes.
And I thought that was really nice. And it was a great way to end the episode.
Absolutely. So
I hated that bit.
Really?
I absolutely
Really?
hated that bit because he never comes back to her. That's what creates the obsession with the Doctor for 18 some odd years, or sorry, 12 years. He never goes back to her. And if he can go back and rewrite that piece of timeline, which should, by all math, be a fixed point in time.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
Charles, you're killing me.
Yes.
Well,
I hated that. That was fan service of the highest order.
Well, I will tell you, as a
what if he-
fan, I love it, and in fact, that may be my favorite line of the episode. It probably won't be, but I have it ready just in case we need to tell her a story.
What if he brought along a memory worm so that after he met her, he erased her memory completely?
Yes.
Well, if that's the case, then he should have brought a memory worm to 1950 and rescued Amy and Roy.
I
Yes.
know.
All right, Devin, do you have a favorite line?
Charles actually already snagged it. It was
Okay.
when you travel around with an ageless god who insists on having.
That was Jesse.
The face
Yes.
of a 9-year-old.
Yeah, Jesse stole my line too. So yeah,
Okay. Yes.
shakes fist.
Oh,
right.
well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shakespeare's thing. Yeah, I Moffat outdid himself with it. I really think so. And then the whole "that's what marriage is about" sequence.
Yes.
That run true. That I was, the great thing about being married to somebody who's one of the converted is when there's a bit like that, you turn to your spouse and go, yeah, that's about right. And
Yeah.
and if my wife isn't Scottish, then I don't know what nationality she could possibly be because she looks back at me and does that thing.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a keeper.
Okay. Good. Charles, how about you?
Well, my backup line is I always wanted to visit the Statue of Liberty. I guess she got impatient.
Very nice. Yes. I love the line, and Devin, you kind of talked about it, when Amy tells Roy, shut up, together or not at all. And
Yep.
there is so much love in there, and it is...
You old softy.
It is an old softie. And the whole idea, Rory at times was very insecure around the Doctor. And this is so, I think Amy proved her love to him very, very often. But I thought this was really nice, and to have them, I think, Devin, you said it best, that the final few scenes were absolutely perfect, but just they didn't get as much as you could have wanted. So yes.
Yeah.
And I do love Amy's final speech where it says, you look after him and you be a good girl and you look after him, because I love it when they remind us that River is their daughter. So very nice. All right. So despite all the flaws, I would give this 8 yowzas.
Okay.
So Devin, how about you?
I would give it 7 fixed points in time.
Very nice.
Okay.
Charles?
I'm going to be a little generous. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 torn paperback pages.
Ooh, nice. Very nice. Very good.
And so, the Doctor's kind of a dick in that regard because he's the one that, like, you can't trust your books with him because he's going to rip the last page out of them.
Yeah. So,
So if you're a collector, you're going to be going nuts.
Yes. With Capaldi's Doctor, they show a lot of books and the bookcases, so you wonder if all of them have a torn page. And is he mad at his previous incarnation? He's
Probably.
like, damn it.
Probably. So yeah, probably.
So we're going to go to Devin's convention report, but before we do, Charles, do you have a reverse the polarity for us?
Yeah, mine's going to be pretty quick and simple. I'm only going back a couple of years to the Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone. This was the 5th and 6th episode from Series 5 in 2010. For obvious reasons, you've got the 11th Doctor and Amy being summoned by River Song, and they end up going to the planet Alfalva Metraxis, where the spaceship Byzantium has crashed, and Amy has her first encounter with the Weeping Angels.
Yes.
And this story also kind of like expanded the Weeping Angels to make them more of a threat, to give them more potential in the story. As far as just a kind of a what they're almost like in Blink, they're more like I want to say they're more like scavengers.
Yes.
But in this case, they're more of an active threat,
Yes.
and they have a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of sets the tone for this story. The Angels Take Manhattan.
All right. Very nice.
And it also features a very cool Ian Glenn from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would have thought you would have picked another companion leaving episode. So nice way to kind of keep me guessing.
That's
So very good. So, Devin, so you were lucky enough, or you've worked your butt off enough that you were able to do a couple of panels, at least one with Karen and Arthur. So, you want to give us a little bitty con report?
Well, first and foremost, the great thing about getting to do this conversation was it was hot on the heels of talking with Karen at Fan Expo Dallas at the end of May. So only about 6 weeks, 7 weeks have passed.
Yeah.
And it's not one of those things where if you do cons a lot, you almost have to remind them. Because as wonderful and funny as you think you are as a human being, actors who do the con circuit and do 20 or 30 of these, they all tend to blend together. So
Absolutely.
You have to remind them. We spoke a couple of years ago. And it all just melts. But Karen immediately remembered who I was, and we just picked up a lot of our conversational bits and bobs from there.
Great.
So
And meeting Arthur for the first time, she's actually telling him. Sorry, go ahead.
that has to be like a great moment, right?
Oh my God, it's ridiculous. I mean, because number one, Karen is as gloriously beautiful as you can possibly imagine. I want to put her in my pocket and carry her around with me forever.
Yeah.
That in mind, I almost felt like I was flirting with someone's wife in front of them because the imagery of Amy and Rory still kicks in. But they're mates. They're pub buddies. Every time they're in the same town, Karen's actually moved to Los Angeles now, and Arthur still lives in England. So they see each other occasionally. Whenever they do, they rabble rouse and do whatever. And Karen had recommended this amazing Tomatin Scotch, which is distilled in a little town next door to where she lived. And she recommended that I brought out my flask and let them sniff it because they had a photo op later. I wanted them to be sober, and Arthur had never heard of it. And Karen is just shocked. I can't believe I didn't tell you about this. It's brilliant. So
very nice.
So there was all that, and that was backstage. So we get on stage, and the interplay between the two of them is just fantastic. They're finishing each other's sentences. They're still quizzing each other and jabbing themselves in the side. It was incredibly fun. Arthur is fantastic. You might know that he is getting ready to return to TV sets next season with DC's Legends of Tomorrow. What I did not realize is they have not started shooting principal photography on that yet. The 4 or 5 minute teaser we saw is everything that has been shot so far for the show.
Yeah, that was
Arthur
was a specially shot treat
to anything.
Yeah.
Right, but usually when they're doing that, you're going to do that in the production run because you've already got everybody there. Let's just go ahead and do it. With this one, they really wanted to get in front of the Comic-Con audience and say, this is coming and this is going to be really, really awesome. Or I say, no, not Comic-Con. That was TV upfronts for TCA. Sorry, my mistake.
No.
He couldn't speak to a lot about that. We spoke specifically about Angels Take Manhattan because I knew we were going to have this conversation and asked their recollections of the episode. But the funny thing was, this was not the last piece that they shot of Doctor Who. They were working on that. They're working on the whole thing out of sequence. So the last thing they actually shot together was a piece in The Power of Three, where they're all getting ready to jump into the TARDIS and go away. So it's the three of them crowding inside the door and you're looking at the TARDIS on the exterior. Then they give each other the knowing nod and turn around, go inside, shut the door. That was actually the very last piece that the three of them, Smith, Gillen, and Darvill, shot.
Nice.
And they actually had just this. As Arthur is telling the story, they both just started getting this look like they were remembering every little nuance of the bit, and it still affects them to this day.
That's nice.
That's great. That's great.
Let's see. The last question that they were asked was by a kid, early teenager, if not, just at the cusp of it. And if you could write a Doctor Who story, what would it be? So, being them, they basically made up an extremely silly story about how an alien or an alien race that is in the shape of shoes winds up on Rory's feet, and he can't stop running. He doesn't want to stop, so he'll fall asleep and he'll still be running. But the Doctor will come along and TARDIS and save the day. So that was the story, and it was watching them make this up as they were going, because this was totally off the cuff, and it was a moment that the whole audience is just going, "This is funny as all hell."
I bet.
And when this panel comes online in a little while, you guys are. It was just a great conversation. It was so much fun. I'm trying to remember all of it because there were so many great bits and bobs in it. Darvel was not able to keep the Centurion outfit as a prop, as something to remember the show by, which is kind of sad. And when he was talking about the Legends of Tomorrow casting, he says apparently the only thing I could do is play a time traveler on TV. So
I think Charles is the one that said, yeah, he's playing DC's version of Doctor Who.
That's essentially what Rip Hunter is DC's version of Doctor Who.
So, which I think is amazing. I'm so happy.
So he's the companion. He's graduated to the Doctor essentially now.
Yes,
exactly. Let's see. Karen will be returning as Nebula in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. She has still not seen the script yet. It's probably going to go through a couple more drafts with James Gunn before they start showing it to other actors. I think Chris Pratt has read it, but he would be the only person out of the inner circle. So she doesn't know if she's going to have to shape her head again for this.
Okay.
Not, but she's okay with it because we all assured her she looked great, Paul. So,
which is true. Okay, nice.
There was a question about, who's your favorite Doctor Who monster, and he misspoke originally. And Arthur said the Cybermen. Not the Cybermen. So we got a huge massive kick out of that. Then I just leaned into the microphone. You will be inebriated. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Really, really well.
That is great.
Yeah. It was just such a great time. Such a great time.
Yeah, a lot of cosplay, a lot of Doctor cosplay.
A lot of Doctor Who cosplay, and it was all pretty much Amy and Rory centric. They came knowing who they were going to do. So you had Amy with the tics to remember how many times she had seen the silence. You had Centurion Rory's walking around. You had metric ton of fezzes because, of course, fez.
Right.
There was a great Capaldi era Doctor running around with the Cumby coat and all of that. A few Bakers, but yeah, Doctor Who was definitely. And dueling Peter Davison Doctors.
Nice.
That's nice.
I approved as well. I was very happy to see that. And the celery was fresh.
Oh, very nice. So I know you can't, but can you tell us in vague terms coming up in October? Would we Whovians in the DFW area be pleased with who might be coming?
I can tell you it's the only thing I can tell you about October because there's a lot of guests that are still in flux. There's for some reason we're having problems getting commitments from a lot of the people that we want to have at Dallas Comic Con in October. But I can tell you that we were all really, really disappointed when Jenna Coleman was not able to join us in late May, where it would have been a three-way companion bust. And, oh, God, I just set myself into slash fiction territory. But Jenna is slated to be there in October at the Irving Convention Center, October, I want to say 16th and 17th.
Nice.
She's the very first guest we have announced. And good Lord willing and the agent don't rise, we'll have a wonderful chat with an actual person who's on Doctor Who currently, which we have not had a chance to do in Texas yet.
Very nice. That sounds awesome. Well, very cool. So, Devin, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Devin.
It's always a lot of fun, and we appreciate it. And Devin and I caught up at Who Fest, and where he was... Devin usually has to work conventions, and in this one he was just a guest, and he was telling me how much fun it was to just kind of hang out and have some fun. So good job, my
But
friend.
it was weird too. It's weird. I don't know how you humans do this, where you just walk around
Yes.
a con and not be responsible for something.
Yes.
Things are blowing up. I don't understand.
Yes.
It's very liberating.
No, Who Fest was great. I can imagine it has to be. All of the guests were fantastic. Getting to pal around with Colin Baker again was
Yeah.
just. By the way, the episode of Star Trek Continues, the web series that Vic Mignogna is the executive producer of, where recreates the aesthetic
Again,
of
Kevin?
the Enterprise's original mission.
Okay.
The cinematography. Star Trek Continues, the web series that Vic Mignogna is the producer of.
Right.
Colin Baker was talking about his involvement at the last time that he was at both Moonfest and at DCC Fan Days. The episode that he filmed is online now. So if you go to StarTrekContinues.com, you can see Colin as the leader of an alien race. And it's actually a really, really solid episode. It's another home run from the Star Trek Continues crew.
Great.
Okay, very cool. Thank you. And Charles, thank you so much as always for hanging out and talking Who. Next week we are having Rich Mendoza, who is, I am surprised because Eccleston is his favorite doctor, but he wants to talk about partners in crime. So we're going to get
The return of Donna Noble.
Yes, so that's
Yes.
a little bit of fun. But for now, Devin, where can they find you?
You can find me on devinpike.com. That'll show you links to my Facebook, Twitter, Vimeo accounts. I'm on Instagram now because all the kids are doing Instagram. So just to go to devinpike.com, and that'll give you links to everything else.
Okay. And Charles, where can they find you?
I'm at Charles Skaggs on Twitter and on Instagram. On Facebook, of course, and the Google Plus for all you crazy kids on the Google Plus. Shout out to Karen. Or at least for all the crazy kids that might still be on Google Plus. Although YouTube, now that with YouTube severing ties with Google Plus, maybe there won't be so many crazy kids on Google Plus.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Is that a fact?
that's a fact. That's yeah. If you you do a search for Google Plus, do a new search, you'll find that they're kind of scaling it back. And so they're kind of realizing that maybe Google Plus isn't working.
Okay.
Well, it's not that
So-
it's not working. The idea
just-
for it, and it just doesn't have the traction for it
Right.
because the people who are on there are avid users. They're
Right.
just not using it right. And I when I was doing my OMG Shade Helm tweets a couple of weeks ago, one of the ones that got the greatest reaction was, I'm not sure how long I can keep broadcasting. They're making all of us switch to Google Plus, which means no one will hear us.
And I can be found at Jesse Jackson DFW, and every once in a while, about once a week now, I'm getting someone doing a rant about the Reverend Jackson. So that's kind of fun, and I reply back going, no, I'm the guy obsessed with Bruce Springsteen and Doctor Who. So thank you guys, I appreciate it. For now, we're going to keep hope alive and say observe humanity. For all their faults, they have such courage. Thanks guys, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Love you guys. Have a good night.
Take care. Bye-bye.